Hey guys, Linda from Linda's Essential Science. I've had a few questions lately because I think it's heading into the whole new year, new you stuff that people are doing, where they're really wanting to make real changes in how they eat and what they practice with their food. And they're sick of always kind of losing or breaking down with their wants or habits. And they always ask me things like, how is it? What do you eat? Like, what do you personally eat? How do you consume your foods? What do you do? Now, I'm by no means perfect. Hello, Miss Kim. Got my children for me today so I can do this uninterrupted. So what do I eat? Because I think food is one of those things that can be very challenging. There's a lot of people that eat their food without even understanding what they're eating. And there's a lot of people who believe they eat healthily, and some of the choices they make are not exactly healthy. So I thought I'd get a few things together here to just show you what I do when I read a label, so what I'm looking for when I read a label, and also the way I kind of eat. Now, my children don't eat the way I wish they would, but I manage to hide a lot of extra things in there as well. But they don't necessarily eat how I eat, and how I eat has evolved and changed over many, many years, and many, many times, really based on what I have read and researched and what feels good to me. So what feels good to me may not feel good to you, and that is fine. You've really got to look at things based on how you feel and your personal body needs. So if I say, this is what I do, you might say, oh, I can't eat that, I don't like that. Or you might say, oh no, that reacts funnily with me. These are just ideas. This is not a perfect example of what you should perfectly do. These are just ideas and ways of you to take what you currently do and analyze it and see, can I do things a little bit better that might make me feel a little bit better? So what do? I go to a supermarket and I look to buy something. Most of the food that I cook with are single ingredient foods. So it's a passata with just tomatoes in it. Or it is natural foods that I've actually gotten from the greengrocer. So fruits and nuts and seeds and things along those lines that I will cook with. Single ingredient foods, the way nature provided them to us, or very, very gently modified, i.e. the shell taken off the almonds, things like that. I have a Thermomix, so I tend to grind everything down myself. I do buy flour, but we don't cook a lot with flour. We tend to use almond meal and things like that instead. So when I go to a supermarket and I buy things, I actually went through my pantry looking for examples of not great options versus good options. And I couldn't really find a lot. And that's really good because over the last few years, we've really tried to get rid of out of our cupboard packaged foods that have lots of different ingredient types. So what I choose from a supermarket shelf if I'm going for a packet option and I can't make it myself is I look for a reduced number of ingredients, and I look for no numbers, or if there is numbers on there, that I understand what those numbers are and know that it's okay. So if I'm looking at an acidity regulator, I want it to be citric acid. I don't want it to be a different type of regulator that I don't know what my body's doing. So there's some things that I do not compromise and I will reduce significantly. There's anti-caking agent in that they put in pretty much anything that's sliced or grated, especially cheeses, because you know if you grate your cheese and you chuck it in the fridge, you get it out and it's going to be all clumped together. So they coat it in this anti-caking agent, and we know that our body doesn't do well with that sort of stuff. So I try to reduce things, and I buy the block of cheese in a block and I'll slice it and grate it as I need it. So it's a little bit more time consuming, yes, but I know that my kids aren't getting those sorts of anti-caking stuff building up in their system, because we know it does build up, and Google it's not very nice. So I had a look and I did find a couple of things. So I found soy sauce. So this is good old Aldi soy sauce, because I buy a lot of my stuff from Aldi because I'm wrapped with a lot of their labeling. And if you look very, very carefully at the ingredients of this soy sauce, which are very, very tiny, we have defatted soybean, which I don't even know what that means, ground wholemeal wheat, salt, preservative, flavor enhancer, sweetener. So yeah, There's a few thin things in there that I don't really like, so I'm actually not going to be buying this anymore. This has stayed like this for quite a while, but I've been finding this one. So this is, again, a lot more expensive. So when you do make switches, even though there's less stuff in it, you often find it is more expensive, but I'm playing around. This is an organic gluten-free soy. It's really lovely, and it's got organic soybeans, organic brown rice, salt and water, and that's it. So what I'm doing here is I've reduced the number of ingredients. There's 0 numbers in the ingredients in here, and it's, if I was to make my own soy sauce, that's what I'd be putting in it. So that's the first rule. If I was to make this myself, what ingredients would I put together to create my own? And if those are the ingredients that are in here and that's it, then buy it. It's okay. But if you've then got a whole stack of numbers and flavors and sweeteners and bits and pieces that have been chucked in there, then it's not going to be as good an option for you. So which one will I pick? This one. And yes, it's more, but I need less of it because it tastes really good. You don't need as much as I tend to go through with this sort of stuff. So now I've replaced it with that. Husband, I said we need some peanut butter. I only buy my peanut butter generally from Safeway or Coles because they have the Mavis one, which I really like. Although Aldi have just started to stock this one, which is this one here. Okay, crunchy peanut butter, which is really good that they're stocking this now because in the ingredients, it is just peanuts. Peanuts 100%. The reason I like the Mavis is they add in a little bit of salt too, so it tastes even yummier. But this just has literally 100% peanuts. That's it. He also brought this one because he was like, oh, it's just nice to have a backup. Yuck, he can eat it. He doesn't even eat peanut butter. So does anyone want this? Because I don't want my kids to have it. And I don't want to eat it either. And the reason for that, and it's not too bad, okay? It's a hell of a lot better than they used to be. But it contains 85% roasted peanuts, vegetable oil, which contains an antioxidant 320, which I'm not sure about, and sugar and salt. Why do you put sugar and salt in? Have you got any sugar in? 100% peanuts, a whole stack of other ingredients. If I was to make peanut butter, I would just put in 100% peanuts, maybe a titty bit of salt. That's it. So that's a really good way of discerning which one you're going to buy. And cost-wise difference, there's not a lot of difference in that, which is because this is just peanuts. There's an organic miso as well that my mum bought me, and it's got water, soybeans, organic rice, salt, yeast, a koji culture, which is what part of the miso is, and that's it. Whereas I looked at a miso the other day and there was about 15 ingredients. That's the difference. That's how you know. If you've got something with 15 ingredients and it's different to what you would actually make, that's how you tell. So we talk about nutrition panels as well. I think this is a big one that stumps a lot of people. I now no longer look at nutritional panels because I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I know what I should eat for me to feel good, and I know what my kids should eat. So what I do is I look at the ingredients, okay? Because there's something that will have no fat, no sugar, and be touted as super healthy, but it's got all of these chemicals that are making up the fact that there's no fat or sugar in it. If you remove sugar, they generally will put in a sweetener of some description. That isn't good. Or if you look at something that has a little bit of honey in it and some dates to sweeten it, if you look at the nutritional panel, the carbohydrates might be quite high on there, but they're different to when you're putting a processed raw sugar into something, or not raw, processed sugar into something or a sweetener. Our body responds very differently when it's in its whole food form. If you were to look at 100 grams of sultanas versus 100 grams of grapes, you can be much more satisfied from 100 grams of grapes than you are from sultanas. And that's because that's what nature provided us. It provides us with a lot of other things that go with it that help satisfy us. An apple in an apple form has fiber. It has all these fantastic things. If you just juice the apple and take the juice out, you can drink a glass of juice that might have the equivalent of eight apples in there, and you're getting all of that fructose from the apple. You have one apple, you're going to be satisfied. You're not going to eat 8 apples in a sitting, but you could certainly drink 2 or 3 glasses of apple juice. So you just be sensible with how you do things. So I hope this is making some sort of sense. Ask questions along the way as well as we go. What else did I want to say? I wrote down some things that I wanted to talk about. Oh, things like yogurt is a big one too. If you eat yogurt, if you were to make your own yogurt, generally all you need is a yogurt culture or a couple of teaspoons of your own yogurt to start the culturing process, and milk, full cream milk. That's all you need. So if you pick up a yogurt and you're looking at 17 ingredients and a whole stack of numbers and flavors and preservatives and things like that in there, you don't need that. So find a yogurt with as minimal amount of ingredients as you possibly can. You don't need to add sugar to yogurt. Just buy a natural yogurt or a Greek yogurt, even better. If you can find a Greek yogurt, not a Greek style yogurt, an actual Greek yogurt. If you can find that, then just put a teaspoon of maple syrup in, or a bit of honey, or sweeten it with some berries or something like that when you go to use it. Because a lot of the time when they add these things in, it actually changes the culture a little bit, and we don't get as much of the beneficial cultures that we want to get. So it's just understanding. So when I'm looking at an ingredients list on say a muesli bar or a packet of taco seasoning, I generally make my own taco seasoning now, because then I started looking at some of the numbers on the taco seasonings and nearly fell off my chair. So I make my own. Very simple to do. You just need a blender and a bunch of spices. It's awesome. Store it in the freezer. It won't all clog up and cake up. It's perfect. So I look at the ingredients list, and if the one of the first 3 or 4 ingredients is a sugar or an added sugar like a honey or a maple, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. So it's actually, there's so many choices out there. We have those options, so you know. Sugar is very inflammatory to our system. Sugar makes us crave sugar. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are eating as much of the whole food sort of sides of things as possible. Now, I eat a very high-fat diet, high-fat, low-carb diet. I don't count anything. I don't believe in counting. I believe in enjoying your food. So I choose naturally high-fat stuff. I cook with a lot of organic butter. I like organic grass-fed butter if you can find it. So much better for you than other stuff, and there's lots of reasons behind that. This is probably not the place to go into that, but if you've got questions, ask, and I might do another live. But an organic grass-fed butter is going to sustain you. Our body needs fat to feel full. Okay, it wants to burn fat, not convert the carbohydrates that we're eating and store them to fat. I'm not anti-carbs. I love carbohydrates in the forms that they're naturally given to us. So things like your fruits and your veggies. Fruits are one of those contentious things, point of interest. I don't believe we should be eating huge amounts of fruit, but I certainly would prefer you to be eating a lot of fruit than a lot of processed crap. So just listen to your body. When you start eating more amounts of fat, you will find that you don't actually crave the sweet stuff, and that a banana is enough. You only want half of one, or you have a bit of apple. So don't go crazy with trying to limit how many serves of fruit you have a day. I much prefer you to pick a fruit over anything else that comes in a packaged form. But look at your vegetables. They do have carbohydrates in them, yes. I only restrict the amount of potato that I eat. And again, if you're not frying the potato in a whole stack of shitty vegetable oils and things like that, you actually will be much fuller by having a little bit of potato. So just look at how you're making things, and really lots of leafy greens, lots of natural whole foods. Buy a chunk of meat, have the meat. Cook it in some good butter. It's delicious. Okay, you don't need the seasonings and all the other stuff unless it's natural in those forms. If you start to increase your fat intake and decrease your carbohydrate intake, you will not crave them in the same way. Now, people get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's usually when they fall off the wagon. They'll have a great breakfast, they'll eat really well during the day, and they hit 3 o'clock and they're knackered. So they'll either reach for things like coffee or caffeine to wake them up, or they'll reach for something sugary to give them a lift. And that then generally just passes through. So you've got to look at why you're hungry at 3 o'clock. Are you eating from an emotional point of view? Are you knackered because of a day at work or the kids or something along those lines? Or are you not eating properly through the day and that's why you're hitting that knackered point? Is there something that you can do to prepare for that? So if it's emotional, you need to deal with the emotional side of things. So that's when essential oils come into play for me. I will go to those before I go to a sweet food. If it's hunger, then have something that will give you will satisfy that craving. Something that's full of a good healthy fat, that has a bit of sweetness to it, so with maybe honey or maple syrup or some dates potentially, and that has good amount of protein, good amount of fat, and that will get you through that time. But I guarantee you pick up 1 block of chocolate, you're going to eat the whole thing. That's me. If I start, I can't stop. Now, there's another reason why people crave sugars. There's a lot of different reasons. One is hormonal. If you are estrogen dominant, you will want sugar. Okay, sugar is what is needed to fuel things in your system. If you are estrogen dominant, that's going to play a big role. If you are if you have a problem with your gut biome, your microbiome in your gut, there are certain bacteria that actually crave carbohydrates and sugar, so they will make you want it. So if you eat sugar or carbohydrates in the morning with the food, with your breakfast, you will wake up these little babies that are inside you, these little gut microbiome, and they will go, oh, there's food there, and they will say, okay, we've eaten all of that, where's some more, please? And they'll send messages to your brain to say, you need this, you really, really need this, go have this now. You will die if you don't have this. And these messages from our gut for some people are so strong that they override any willpower or any motivation they have, and they fall off the wagon very quickly. And if you starve them, they get angrier and angrier, and they make those cravings more and more. So you need to deal with those little shitty bacteria in your gut before you can even contemplate trying to win with the motivation. Okay? If you have these little bad bacteria in there craving sugar, it is very, very hard to fight the messages that they send the brain. Really hard. So you need to start to starve them out. And it takes a few weeks and can take longer, but generally if you're doing the right things. There's a couple of things you can do. We know that oregano is really good at getting rid of those ones. You need to be taking oregano in a vegetable capsule diluted down with some fractionated coconut oil, and you need to be taking it in an enteric coated capsule. The reason for that is it will bypass and release where you need it released, down lower in the intestines, as opposed to just in the tummy. And the reason for that is if it gets in there, it'll absorb in through the stomach and not where those bacteria are down lower. So enteric coated vegetable capsule if you are taking oregano. And you look at doing this for short chunks of time. So you say, right, I'm going to hit it for 4 days. So with lunch, you take a capsule with 1 drop in it, and then when you get those cravings at 3 o'clock, you take a capsule, and if you eat the sugar, you take a capsule. So you're looking at no more than 3 to 4 drops a day, and you're doing it in 4 or 5 day chunks with a good 3 or 4 days either side where you're not having it. Oregano will build up and will become an issue in your stomach if you take it for too long internally. Okay, there's also something called lauricidin, which is something that will also, we know, get down into the small and large intestines and help you with those bacteria that are craving sugar. So you are not weak when you break what you're trying to do. You are not weak. It is your body telling you to do something that it believes it needs. And that's just because breaking habits are really hard. Bacteria and their conversations they have with our brain are really hard, and hormones are really challenging. So I often tell people to change other parts of their lifestyle before they look at their food, and just make small changes with what they're trying to achieve. So whether it's to removing carbohydrates in all forms from their breakfast, looking at things like intermittent fasting, which can be a fantastic way of dealing with some of these bacterial things and some of the hormone stuff. Did you know that there is a sweeping system that comes through our gut when we haven't eaten for more than it's between 6 to 8, sometimes up to 10 hours? On those days that I choose to fast, I don't have a breakfast, and I will try to not only eat for a small window of time, so say between the hours of 3 and 7 or 3 and 8. And I will only consume water in that time. And my stomach will go through these gurgle processes after maybe 6 or 7 hours of being up. They'll start to clear, and it's not my stomach telling me that I'm hungry. It is actually a sweeping system that is going through the small intestines and getting rid of the little pieces of food that are in there clogging it up. So my digestion is better when I choose to fast a couple of days a week. You can look into ways to fast, but I believe in eating less and having eating less often rather than having these snacks all the way through the day. And this is how I choose to eat. So I will often not eat until I hit midday, and then I'll choose to eat sort of less regularly. So I'm not snacking, I'm having decent sized chunks of food. So I'm not continually bombarding my digestive system with food that it has to deal with. It needs a rest time. And not just nighttime, but it needs a big rest time so that you get that transit, that cleaning system coming through. Our body wants that. It wants to switch to fat burning because it is a safer way of burning fuel for our bodies. Now it comes back to stress too. So if we're stressed, our body does not have the blood around the digestive tract. It is choosing sugar as its fuel. It's choosing glucose as its fuel. It's not choosing fat. If we're stressed, it's not choosing fat to burn. It is choosing sugar. So if it's choosing carbohydrates to burn, it's going to do what? It's going to make you crave carbohydrates. So if we're stressed, we crave sugar. That's why it's so hard sometimes when we're in the stressed mode to eat well. All of these things add in and link up. So if you're feeling like I just can't do it, I lose motivation, I can't keep on track, and then you're depressed and worried and stressed about the fact that you can't avoid the 3 o'clock or the 8 p.m. munchies or whatever it is, look at internally what you can change and make changes to what you're eating. Go out and have pizza every now and then, buy some crap food from the supermarket, it's fine. It's not what you do some of the time that's important. It's what you're doing most of the time that is vital. So yeah, food doesn't need to be tough, okay? We take the toughness out of what you eat and just start eating what nature's provided us in the form, as close to the form that it provided us with. You can make beautiful, easy meals and you just choose different options. Preparation is the key. Understand what your body is craving and try to make changes based to assist those cravings, because the cravings are telling us something. When we're craving something, there's often an issue in our bodies, either a lack of something or those little bad bacteria that we talked about creating messages in our brains that aren't true. Okay, so thank you for watching. I know I babbled. I will be getting, it's more likely to be the second half of the year or middle of the year when I'm going to be starting doing a lot more of my specific workshops on hormones, gut health, things like that. But it is all about you making those positive changes. Little changes make big differences, and not beating yourself up when you stuff up. One of the things I often see people doing is they're like perfect, they hit the 3 p.m. munchies, they cave, and then they're like, oh, stuff that for the day, I've ruined it, and then they choose to eat all the crap. So if you stuff up at 3 o'clock because those little bad bacteria won, don't kick yourself for that. Go back to eating well. It's only one little stuff up. You can turn it to being a little stuff up and explode it into a crappy day and then go, well, I've ruined it for the week, so I'll just start again on Monday. Or you can say, right, I start again with the next choice that I put in my mouth. Start again with the next choice, not on Monday or not tomorrow. Start again with the next choice, because you have choice. Mwah! Love and hugs, beautiful people. I hope to see you at a workshop soon. Bye.